You take how many pills a day?
50.
And you have 100% sleep score, and you work out every single day, no caffeine, no alcohol, all the things you'd expect like the best behaving person to do and the healthiest person to do.
I am the most healthy person in the entire world. I have the best comprehensive biomarkers of anybody on the planet. So if there were an Olympic sport for health, I would be the gold medalist.
Bryan Johnson built his image around one idea. He said he could slow down aging, possibly reverse it, and push the human body further than anyone before him. He presented himself as someone measuring everything, tracking every detail, and following a strict system designed to extend life as much as possible. He talked about spending millions of dollars on his routine, running constant tests, and refining a protocol that he claimed made him one of the healthiest people alive.
Do you think that you're going to die?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
That line became one of the main reasons people paid attention. It sounded extreme, but it was repeated enough that it became part of his identity online. He described his approach as data-driven. Every meal, every supplement, every action was tracked and adjusted. He called it a system that could control aging. The idea was simple: follow the protocol and improve over time. At the same time, he said something else.
Explain that to people who are under the impression and maybe feel a bit misled that I'm not here to sell you anything. Oh, but now every meal I eat can be found in this like ready to eat processed format.
When I started the project, I had no incentive to make money.
Meals were turned into packaged products. Supplements were sold as part of a complete system. A full monthly stack was offered so people could copy what he was doing. Alongside that, he also started selling other products, including jewelry and NFTs. Even though he had already made hundreds of millions after selling his company years earlier, the gap between what he said and what he was doing started becoming noticeable. He claimed the project was not built for profit, but everything around it was being sold. His online behavior followed a pattern. He would post statements that drew strong reactions, comments that triggered people and kept attention on him. The more people reacted, the more his content spread. One example stood out. He went through a procedure where he received a plasma transfusion from his own son. The idea was to test if it could slow aging. There was no solid evidence supporting it, but the reaction it created was immediate. Instead of avoiding the criticism, he leaned into it. He started referring to his son as his blood boy, knowing how people would react. The more attention it brought, the more he repeated that behavior. Another tweet pushed it further. Nighttime erection data from my 19-year-old son and me. His duration is 2 minutes longer than mine. Raise children to stand tall, be firm, and be upright. That post spread quickly. Reactions came from both supporters and critics, but the results stayed the same. Attention increased. Even with the backlash, the pattern continued. He would later talk about being targeted unfairly, but the posts themselves were designed to get reactions. Behind all of this, his main claim stayed consistent. He said he could live forever.
Do you think that you're going to die?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
That statement appeared across multiple interviews and podcasts. It became one of the core ideas tied to his name. But in a different setting, the answer changed.
I know I'm going to die by the most ridiculous thing possible. It is.
Really?
Yes. Like, how can that not be true?
Well, because irony.
I mean, irony always wins.
The claim shifted. He acknowledged that death was still inevitable, even while continuing to present the opposite idea in other appearances. He talked about slowing aging using his system, but also admitted that current methods would only extend life by a small amount. This dude mentioned that real breakthroughs would likely come from future technology, not what he was currently doing. The products tied to his system continued to be sold as if they could produce major results. The difference became more visible when people started looking into the details of what was being sold. One of the main parts of his system was Blueprint Protocol. It was sold as a complete setup that included meals, supplements, and daily routines designed to match what he was doing himself. People could buy the full stack and follow the same structure step by step. The plan was built around a strict vegan diet, but that detail mattered. A long-term vegan diet usually requires one key supplement, vitamin B12. It does not naturally appear in plant-based foods, and without it, the body starts to break down over time. Fatigue, memory issues, and more serious conditions can develop if levels stay low. His product line included capsules that were supposed to cover that gap. People trusted that part of the system. The problem started when someone looked closer at the product data. A certificate of analysis from his own website showed that the capsules had no detectable B12 at all. That document had been available for months. Customers were buying the product believing it contained everything they needed. Many of them were relying on it as their only source of B12. Users began sharing the document online. Discussions started building in his own community. Some people tried to defend it at first, but the details were clear. The product did not match what it claimed. Other issues started showing up at the same time. Some batches had higher levels of certain minerals than expected. Others raised questions about ingredient consistency. As more people looked into the data, more inconsistencies appeared. Instead of addressing it directly right away, the company removed the certificates from the website. They were replaced with a message saying updates were coming. For a while, the data was no longer visible. When the certificates were added back later, the situation did not improve. New reports pointed out high levels of heavy metals in one of his cocoa products, including amounts that would not meet standards in some regions. This stood out even more because of something he had said earlier. He had released a video criticizing a competing product, saying people should only trust companies that share full testing data and prove their products are clean. His own products were showing issues when tested. The difference between what he said and what was found kept getting wider. Another claim he used often was about his speed of aging. He said his biological age was increasing slower than normal. He presented this as proof that his system was working. That number became a major part of how his products were marketed. But when asked directly about the test behind it, the answer changed.
I think people who do speed of aging tests that I'm aware of realize it's an emergent field. It's interesting. We don't know exactly where it's going. It's kind of a fun game. It's a game of curiosity. Where am I at? How do I compare? But I don't see anyone thinking that this is replacement for any serious medical assessment that would conclude their true risk factors.
He explained that the test was still experimental and not a reliable way to predict lifespan or long-term health. At the same time, the same metric was being used to promote his system as effective. People started testing it themselves. One example came from someone who followed his full protocol for 6 months. The results showed almost no improvement. The numbers stayed nearly the same from start to finish, even with strict adherence to the routine. That raised another issue. His own results were not coming from the same system he was selling. He was running hundreds of experiments on himself, plasma exchanges, medical procedures, and treatments that were not included in the product stack. Those had a much larger impact on his test results than the protocol being sold. The system people were buying did not match the system he was actually using. That gap stayed in place while the marketing continued. People looked into how he presented his results publicly. One of the main features tied to his system was something called the Rejuvenation Olympics, a leaderboard where people could compare their aging scores based on the same test he promoted. It was positioned as a way to track progress and see who was achieving the best results. Bryan consistently ranked at the top, and that position became part of his credibility. It reinforced the data that his system worked better than anything else available. That changed when people started comparing older versions of the leaderboard. Archived version of the site showed that he was not always in that position. At one point, he was ranked lower, with other individuals placed above him. After a redesign of the site, the rankings changed. His position moved up, while others either dropped or disappeared entirely from the list. The structure of the leaderboard had been adjusted, and the outcome placed him closer to the top. This raised questions about how the rankings were being calculated. The system was already based on a test he admitted was not reliable, and now the presentation of the results was also being questioned. That statement changed how the leaderboard should be viewed. The same metric used to rank people publicly was not meant to be taken seriously, yet it was still used to support his claims. Another contradiction started getting attention. He repeatedly said that everything he was doing was focused on longevity and nothing else. He stated that appearance was not part of the goal.
Now, many people have said I dye my hair. I actually don't.
That did not match what people were seeing. He released a video explaining how he restored his hair and reversed graying. In that video, he said he did not dye his hair.
So I'm going to show you the two formulations I use. An herbal extract, which has a color.
A short time later, he listed the exact products he was using, both of which were designed to change hair color.
And then you saw there, I have a testosterone patch. That's an Androderm 2 milligrams patch, which delivers, I think, 9 milligrams of testosterone, something like that.
Yeah, I can never remember this one.
The explanation shifted from denying it to redefining it. Instead of calling it dye, he described it differently, even though the results stayed the same. The same thing applied to hair loss. He presented it as something he had reversed naturally, but the methods included known treatments. Use of minoxidil was part of the routine, a drug commonly used for hair regrowth. That created a clear conflict with his earlier claims. He said nothing was done for appearance, but multiple parts of his routine focused on it. Another example came from his diet. He followed a strict calorie-restricted plan, which lowered his testosterone levels. In earlier content, he explained how he used testosterone replacement to maintain normal levels.
To put this in context, my nighttime erections are the length of the Titanic, the movie, not the boat, and that is better than an average 18-year-old.
Later, that detail changed. He said he was no longer using testosterone and that his body was producing it naturally again. The numbers he shared led to more questions, especially considering his diet and age. A simple way to verify it was suggested, but the data was never fully released. He often talked about his health indicators, including measurements related to sleep and physical function. One of the most repeated claims involved his nighttime performance data.
My prostate for normal size, it still is. As you age, you get a bigger prostate. I also started taking tadalafil, which basically offsets that bladder enlargement.
He presented it as proof that his system produced better results than average. What he did not include in that claim was the use of medication that directly affects those results.
It's better than Ozempic.
Really?
It is. And so, for example, there's a study where people lost 5.2 pounds taking Evo, consuming Evo, for 9 weeks.
That drug improves blood flow and directly influences the outcome he was measuring. It stayed active long enough to affect the data he was presenting. That detail changed the meaning of the claim. Results were not coming from the base system alone. The same approach appeared in his public interviews. When speaking to audiences unfamiliar with the details, he made strong claims about certain foods.
And we've just followed the data and the science. And so when you see my appearance evolve, it's just we're following data and science. We do nothing about appearance like that is proactive. We just say, how can I drive this process of aging to the slowest possible rate and reverse aging damage? So it really is just like a real-time live science experiment.
That statement was based on a study, but the interpretation did not match the actual findings. When questioned more directly, the answer changed.
You mentioned there was a study where individuals consumed extra virgin olive oil for 9 weeks and lost 5.2 pounds. And it was in addition to what they're currently eating. It's better than Ozempic.
You know what? That was before we went through the process.
Okay.
And so when I did that podcast and we started going through the whole process, like, oh my God, I really should have cleaned up my language.
Okay.
So yeah, that was before.
The same pattern appeared again when discussing his own products. He was asked to explain how certain ingredients worked or why they were included.
It's a good question. I don't know.
What is the differential on glucose spikes, for example, or like ability to process it well and digest it well? Is there any notable difference?
But yeah, it's a good question. From that perspective, I don't know.
Is this the only human study on alpha ketoglutarate?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do we justify this as an everyday thing that we're going to utilize?
Yeah. I don't know the comprehensive evidence justification for it.
That response came up multiple times. Over time, these patterns became easier to recognize. A strong claim, a simple explanation, and a deeper look that showed something different underneath. By this point, the claims were clear. The messaging stayed consistent and the image was built around control, precision, and measurable results. The details behind those claims kept changing depending on where the question was asked and who was asking it. He often presented himself as someone operating purely on data, someone who had removed guesswork and replaced it with numbers. That idea made his system feel structured and reliable. People could follow it step by step and expect results based on what he showed. But when those details were checked closely, the structure did not hold the same way. That moment showed how quickly a strong claim could shift once it was examined directly. The same thing happened with multiple parts of his system. Statements that sounded precise were later adjusted, clarified, or walked back when more details were required. He continued presenting his protocol as something people could follow to reach similar results. The gap stayed there. His own routine included advanced treatments, constant monitoring, and procedures that were not part of what people were buying. The version being sold was simplified, while the version he followed was far more complex. That difference did not appear in the main message. He continued describing himself as the healthiest person in the world.
You take how many pills a day?
50.
And you have a 100% sleep score, and you work out every single day, no caffeine, no alcohol, all the things you'd expect like the best behaving person to do and the healthiest person to do.
I am the most healthy person in the entire world. I have the best comprehensive biomarkers of anybody on the planet. So if there were an Olympic sport for health, I would be the gold medalist.
That line stayed consistent, even while other parts of the system raised questions. The identity remained the same, built on results that were not fully explained within the system being sold. Millions still tune in to see what he does. Some are just there for the show, others really want to believe he has the answers. It looked real at first, but the holes in his story are too big to hide now. He's still making content, but his name is ruined. Every new mistake makes him look worse. The trust is dead. Once that's lost, it never comes back. So subscribe or Bryan Johnson will live long enough to haunt your grandchildren.